Hi, I'm Lee Thomas with Wise Woofs, and today we're going to talk about my experience with canine pseudopregnancy. Pseudopregnancy is when a female dog mimics signs of actual pregnancy but isn't pregnant. So there's no embryo, there's no puppies out of the way, but the dog looks, feels, and acts like they're becoming pregnant. This is most often seen in dogs who are over the age of 2. So we have an in-depth article about pseudopregnancy on our website, www.wisewoofs.com. Today, I'm going to talk about my personal experience and what I went through with my dog Daphne. So we tried to mate Daphne with a dog up here in New York, and at the beginning of her 3rd trimester, we drove out to Arizona where I intended to raise the puppies with one of my mentors so we could create great service dogs just like Daphne. So all information conveyed to me is that Daphne had a safe, successful, scientifically sound mating process. Dropped her off for a week, scooped her up. 1 week exactly after she reported to have her first mating with the dog, she threw up for the first time in her life at 3 years old. So in our minds, boom, canine morning sickness. No puke for 3 years, and all of a sudden the first time after she mates, we took that as a good sign. Additionally, she started to pee her brains out, eat her brains out. She was gaining significant weight. I think she started out at 66 pounds, and I'd say she gained 10 pounds prior to our trip. She's looking like a big mama in one of those pictures you've probably seen across your screen. The one thing that we didn't do, which could have confirmed pregnancy and distinguished it from a pseudopregnancy, is an ultrasound between day 30 and 40. The duration of canine pregnancy or the gestation period is 63 days. It's 9 weeks, basically give or take a week. We left for Arizona on day 42, so the beginning of her 3rd trimester. Given that we were driving across the country and embarking on a major trip at that stage in her pregnancy, we definitely should have gotten an ultrasound between day 30 and 40 when we had the opportunity to. If we did so, it would have saved us a lot of energy. It wouldn't have put Daph through the rough experience that she toughed out, and it would have saved us a hell of a lot of money too. But all in all, we thought she was pregnant, and we didn't have any reason to worry about it. Is that a little bit of a mistake in retrospect? Yes, and so certainly take that lesson forward with us. So the other thing that hit me when we stopped at the Airbnb is that traveling across country with any dog in their 3rd trimester is probably a terrible idea. And despite all the blankets and the cushion that I tried to give her, when you're going through different terrain and you're on that road, there are so many turns at high speeds, there's so many potholes, and it's just impossible to prevent any of that from affecting Daphne. So every time we're going around a corner, she's kind of hanging on for dear life to shift this way. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Whether a dog has a pseudopregnancy and they're just full of gas and totally bloated, or if they have a bunch of puppies in their belly who are bouncing around during the trip and the mom's trying to be stable. And so these different types of pressure being put on her and her having to kind of always be at the ready and be unable to relax adds stress. It's terrible for the pregnancy. It can have a negative impact on the pups when they come out. And so for that reason, pregnancy, pseudo-pregnancy, whatever, I don't think I would ever make that type of trip unless it was more towards the beginning of the 2nd trimester or earlier. So Daph lost weight during the trip. Something I wasn't excited about, but I thought it could be corrected, and it was understandable. A few days after arriving in Arizona, she began to have horrific diarrhea. that was a bad sign. At the door, wanting to go outside every 30 minutes, not retaining food or nutrients which the pups need. So we went to the vet and we did a DNA PCR test on her stool sample. If you don't know what PCR is, don't worry about it. Just remember the abbreviation and ask for it if you need to get a fecal exam. She had a bacterial infection. It didn't show up on the standard fecal. It did show up on the DNA PCR, which took a few extra days to come back in. Because of the assumed pups in Daphne's belly, there were a lot of medications that we couldn't use to treat her diarrhea like we normally would. And so we went with a crazy herbal mixture that was really potent with a lot of antibacterial properties. It was composed of myrrh, golden seal, aloe vera, turmeric, boswellia, and omega-3s, as well as papaya enzymes. And we were giving her different elixirs every 2 hours. This stuff helped for a day. It's very, very strong, but she started to have bad diarrhea again a couple days later. And so with that going on for such an extended amount of time, the vet was getting concerned and strongly suggested we come in for an ultrasound and an x-ray, which we did. I had a pretty sinking feeling in my stomach at that point. I knew that things weren't going in the right direction towards a successful, healthy birth of a litter. I was worried about the puppies. I was worried about Daphne. So we went into the vet. We did the ultrasound, we did an x-ray, and we found 0 puppies, which also meant 0 risks for other complications for Daphne. Obviously disappointing though, given what we were hoping for. So here's a shot of the x-ray, which shows a boatload of gas in her intestines. If there were pups, dead or alive, we'd see images of bones or skeletons on the x-ray. So 2 days before her due date, we received word we had a pseudopregnancy on our hands and not a litter of puppies. Since there were no puppies and we received the results from the DNA PCR, we knew what we were dealing with, we got her on some strong antibiotics and had her feeling pretty back to normal within a few days. The pseudopregnancy created a really uncomfortable experience for Daphne, especially given the trip that I put her through. However, as opposed to a miscarriage where we would have had to have emergency surgery to take out whatever unborn puppies were inside of her, the pseudopregnancy leaves the window open for another litter. She was checked out by the vet and given a thumbs up to give this another try. There's one other notable, really heartbreaking part about this to watch. It's not only does the dog get the physical effects of pregnancy, but mentally they really think they're going to have babies. Towards the end of actual pregnancy, dogs do this process called nesting, which is reminiscent of what they did before they united with us and were out in the wild. So it's basically digging a den. This happened 10 to 12 weeks after her first mating. It lasted for 2 weeks, where Daphne would get on a bed or a certain spot in the house and just claw like crazy trying to dig a hole to china, moving pillows around to create a safe space in the little burrow around. She was really prepared to be a mom. And seeing her go through that when I knew that nothing was coming out, that was sad. So naturally, everyone connected to the litter was disappointed. What was most surprising to me, after sort of taking a step back and looking at all this, was learning how common pseudopregnancy actually is. It's really common for unspayed females over the age of 2. So for instance, the vet told me if we did not either spay or breed Daphne in her next heat cycle, she will likely have another pseudopregnancy because she just had one. This is life. Just like people, dogs can have issues with fertility. And so sometimes it takes a couple of efforts. Sometimes maybe a dog isn't fertile. But we wanted to share this process for those who have gone through it but didn't really understand what was happening, and those of you who will encounter it in the future, so you can better deal with it. And with that, we're going to sign off. Peace, love, and keep it wise.